Thank you so much for joining us for our premiere episode of Center Stage today. My first guest is the Residence Program Director for 7 years at Brookdale Club Hill. Approximately 240 residents, including independent and assisted living. And this guy right here is a genuine article. Love him to death. Our very first guest, so privileged to have David Sweet. David, how are you, sir?
Steve.
Steve. Wait a minute. Miss Piggy, what are you doing on the screen there? Where's David at?
Oh, hi, Steve. Oh, I've been missing you. He's not here.
Right, Miss Piggy.
It's just me, Stevie. Piggy, get out of the way. I am so sorry, but she's a ham in more ways than one. I apologize.
Oh, that was a big rim shot right there. David, I tell you, I am so excited to have you on the show today. You are a man of so many talents. You're not only a puppeteer, you're not only an incredible painter. Many of us in the entertainment community talk about your speed paintings. I mean, of all the people, I got to be very honest, you're the first one I thought of when we kicked this show off. And just thank you so much for so much of your talent that you've attributed to Garland there at Brookdale Club Hill for 7 years now, right?
Yes, Steve, it's been 7 years, and it just seems like it's been just yesterday. And it's such an honor to work here. I've had wonderful times with all of you entertainers here, and the residents are just so wonderful, so accommodating. They've just given me the opportunity to just express myself in many different ways.
Well, I tell you what, you have indeed. And I have to ask, obviously we've been dealing with this COVID-19, this pandemic that's been going on for a while. How have you been, and how have you been coping with this, trying to juggle the community work from home? Because I know a lot of people, I know you're just now returning to work.
No, I've been at work the whole time. I
Wow.
have not been at home. I've been at work the whole time. So besides putting on the COVID-15 and COVID-19, like the freshman 15, I'm doing good. So we've just been adjusting all of our events as we need to. So obviously there's limited things that we can and can't do. But no, I have been here every day, day in and day out, working it.
Wow. Well, relative to the community, what has been, in your opinion, Dave, probably the most difficult part of all this?
For the residents, it's definitely going to be the fact that they can't see their loved ones. And we just finished Mother's Day, and so many of them were longing for that contact, that hug from their kids, and the kids from their parents. And what you helped me do with those videos, just really let them feel the love through the power of video. But that's been probably the biggest struggle. You see it in their voices, you hear it when they just are so desperate for seeing their loved ones.
It definitely has been a trying time, and what Dave's referring to is a video that I actually put together for the residents for Mother's Day, because so many have been in isolation for a while. Dave said, hey, he had this great idea. He said, I want to do something really special for the residents because, the isolation and being away from family members. And that's the thing about people like yourself, activity directors and life enrichment coordinators all over the United States. You really do have to have a passion for this, right, Dave?
You do. For me, it's not a job. It's a calling. And, I spent the first 50 years of my life just working, and I would hear people say that, I have a job, I haven't worked a day yet. And I'd be like, that's an old wives' tale, forget that. And then at the age of 50, I was able to jump in, and I'm living that dream now. I have not worked a day yet. Every day I'm just so blessed to come in here and do something with these residents, and you just have to go with the flow. whether you have a plan A, you need to have a plan B and a C, so that we can just transition smoothly. And that's what we're learning to do with COVID, because it's so fluid. What we're doing today may not be allowed tomorrow, so what are we going to do instead? Because they still need to have that interaction and that engagement. The last thing I want them to do is to sit in their apartments and just wait for this thing to be over.
Right.
Because we're going to be the last. We're going to be the last ones that are let loose to go back out into the new normal. And so it's going to be longer for our residents. Told you I was on an interview. Go back to your office. Don't make me come over there and hit you.
Some enchanted evening, you will see a stranger. You will see a stranger across the crowded room. I love this every moment, every moment of the year. Stay behind bars, I will never rest till then. This I swear by the stars.
In your experience, I know you've done a lot of projects with residents before COVID-19 hit the community there and all the communities, and you guys have always been very, very active since starting there. What programs did you guys have to cancel or put on hold because of all this?
Well, we did have a cruise scheduled in April. Obviously, that was put on hold and will be for quite a while. Our normal, dine outs, we were going to do a trip down to Austin, and all of those have been canceled. What we're trying to still do, though, is we were working on a project with the local high schools to build bookcases for the English department. Obviously, that whole project has been scrapped and put on hold right now, because really it was an intergenerational project for the kids to come over and work with the residents. So that definitely has been put on hold. So we're just trying to come up with different ways to keep them engaged that are exciting to them and are still going to be able to push those bounds of their knowledge, their intellectual. We just don't want to keep it the same for them, so we want to have them do something maybe they have not done before. So
Sure.
we're learning every day. It's a new day.
Absolutely. And speaking of bookcases, I've got to talk about that bookcase that is right behind you, Dave, that to me, what a story. Are you talking about that bookcase or are you talking about another bookcase? And if not, please share your story with us about the Dr. Seuss bookcase that is right behind you, because this was just simply incredible.
Well, really, this whole thing started when we did a Dr. Seuss bench for the Ronald McDonald House. And we did one bench that was received well. And then we decided, well, you guys want to try some more? And they said, well, let's do 15 Dr. Seuss benches. And then after we did that, a group of local businessmen stepped in and women and said, hey, how about if we fund this project and you do every single elementary school in the city of Garland? So 65 benches were built by the residents, who then dressed up as Thing 1 and Thing 2, delivering those to all of the elementary schools in the city of Garland. And then the bookcase behind me, you can kind of see over there, was another brainchild that we were working on. But for the high school bookcases for English, they're more your traditional, straight, nothing curvy or crazy on it, because they're high school kids, so they're not quite as cool as us Dr. Seuss fans.
Well, I'll tell you what, you guys set a precedence when you actually had the residents get involved in literally cutting the wood, putting the wood together, painting. I mean, you guys did the whole entire thing, and then you presented. How many benches did you guys end up building?
65.
Wow.
And so they've enjoyed it. To see somebody out there who's 85 using a nail gun for the first time and thought they would never do something like that, because all the benches were made anybody could paint. So you would have somebody in assisted living who says, I can't do anything. I'm stuck in my chair. And I'm like, but you can come up to the table and you can paint these pieces. They're like, yeah, well, there you go. You are now involved in that process. So it's just figuring out how you can modify the project so that they can still enjoy it. And the program eventually took off to the point where I really wasn't involved in, where I just walked through and say, how's it going? Because they were so into it.
Once you spread the seed, or you plant the seed, then it starts to take off, which is really amazing. I wanted also, too, that all of the safety precautions were taken during the building of those benches, too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, I was the first one. So I took one for the team. So I have them all. So, but yes, all safety. And during that process, when power tools were used, I was present for that to ensure that we followed all those requirements. But if you're out there painting and you're out there doing the lettering, you're on your own.
Right.
You can do that. So.
Which leads to my next question, because, oftentimes there's a little bit of stress between management and your position. And we know that nationwide, a lot of life enrichment coordinators, activities directors, they have to get permission, obviously, from their partners within, obviously, the management. So, in conjunction with that, the relationship between management and life enrichment coordinators, it can be stressed. What advice would you give maybe to other coordinators that are watching the show today, out there that are watching, that might create a better working environment between the two so you don't have as much resistance?
But I told you I was on an interview. Go back to your office. Exactly. Don't make me come over there and hit you. I'm sorry. They just don't listen to me sometimes.
I hope I don't get you fired after this.
It's that partnership of being able to just come up with the idea and just go for it. So, a page out of my book, and maybe it's not for everybody, but a page out of my book is sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. And that's just me. So I'm not telling anybody else to go through and do that. But I do believe that if you can show that it's well thought out, that you can see and show the leadership what the benefits are going to be for both the residents, for the community, of neighboring communities, what you can do to show how it's not going to impact your budget in a great way. There's a lot of, I don't mind asking for something, because I've heard no a lot in my life. So if you go to a local business group and say, hey, would you help give us some money to fund this project? Or you go to Lowe's or Home Depot and say, would you help, donate some supplies? And you can show them what you're doing and that they're going to be recognized. On the remaining benches that we built, we put metal plaques on there recognizing our partners, so that when that bench is out there, anybody else can sit there and say, oh, look, that individual, that group of businessmen. So you're paying that out there and getting their name out there, as well as being part of a really good community project. So sometimes I think it's just figuring out how to be creative. They took me aside and they gave me a piece of advice that to this day I still live by.
Let's go back a little bit. There's a kind of hush all over the world tonight, all over the world. You can hear the sound, lovers in love. How could that funny face that seemed to be commonplace project you right into space without any warning? And yes, I know how lonely life can be. Don't pour your love out on me, baby. If you do, then I think that maybe I'll just lay me down, cry me 100 years. Don't pour your love out on me, honey. You take my heart, my soul, my money, but don't leave me drowning in my tears. Don't pour your love out on me, baby. If you do, then I think that maybe I'll just lay me down, cry for 100 years. Don't I know that you've got Memorial Day coming up. It's approaching pretty quick. Many communities are still exercising social media, or excuse me, social distancing. It continues. What is your community planning on doing on Memorial Day, if you don't mind me asking? Are you still, obviously, you're still going to be social distancing as well, right?
Oh my gosh, when is that? When is Memorial Day? Is that this month?
Yeah.
Oh my!
Well, it's
I gotta
coming
go.
up pretty
I gotta
quick.
get this together. You know, for that, we obviously have had to change how we do things. So what we're doing this year is something that we've done in the past, but we'll give everybody this year a plastic soldier, and we'll ask them to put that somewhere in their apartment. And when they see it, just lift up a prayer to those active military. And really, Memorial Day is for the fallen. So we're also going to ask them to think about and pray for those that have sacrificed their life for us to be able to enjoy ours. I'm still going to ask them to write down the names of those that have sacrificed their life for this country. And then from there, we're going to go through and still plant our tree of remembrance. So every year we take all those names and we place them into a hole, and we put that tree on there so that all of their spirit becomes part of that life force for that tree. Yeah. So we're still going to do that, but the concert with the entertainers, unfortunately, we're not able to do, or a barbecue we're not able to do. But putting the flags up outside, we have the big 6 foot tall flags. All of that can still happen. So you just have to figure out, how can I not cancel the event, but modify the event for the current guidelines. So, for example, Steve, I can plan a trip somewhere, and at the last minute, the weather can be an issue or whatever. So you just have to have that plan of what we're going to do. And if you do, then you're going to be okay.
That is great information. I'll tell you, it amazes me. You've been doing this for 7 years now, and just some of the ideas that you come up with are just phenomenal. Two more questions for you. A lot of folks I've been reading online are utilizing assistants. You have some assistants to help you too, right?
I do. I have one. I have Rachel. So Rachel's been with me for 3 years, and she really is my right hand on helping me get things together and get them accomplished. So that's key to it as well, to be able to have that partnership with an assistant, so that you can help each other out, especially if you're working so closely that it becomes that portion where they can finish each other's thoughts. You're like, oh, okay, I knew that. I didn't need to ask that. I knew that she was going to get it, or she knows that I was going to handle that for her. It just is a given. And that's really where I've been fortunate with that, with my assistant.
My final question for you. I know there's a lot of LECs and activity directors, life enrichment coordinators and resident program directors like yourself that are probably have just started this, or maybe even looking into getting into it. What advice would you give them, David, today, based on what you know, and obviously with this added layer of COVID-19, what advice would you give them today watching the show?
Many, many years ago, I was fortunate enough to go on my first mission trip. And from the time I said I wanted to go to finding myself in the jungles of Guatemala was 6 weeks. And on day 2, when I was upset because the program wasn't going as written, they took me aside and they gave me a piece of advice that to this day I still live by. And I tell people, blessed are the flexible, for they will never be bent out of shape. So if you're coming in with a set of rigid rules, it's not going to work. Because you've got too many variables in there that can be unstable. And so you just need to be flexible. You need to do what the residents want, not what you want to do. And you just need to be there with a servant's heart to lead and be there for them every single day. And you're in. And it's a choice, not a job, to do every day. So
great point. David Sweet, thank you so much for all you do and making it through this. Thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Oh, and I'm so sorry. She's such a hog when it comes to the camera.
Thank you, Miss Piggy. We love you. Thanks for being on the show, Dave. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, guys.
If you're an activities director or residence program director of a senior community, we want to hear from you. Join the conversation on our Facebook page to share ideas and more. It's your Facebook page, and we'd love to hear from you. Just look for the logo or drop by our webpage at seniorentertainmentnetwork.com to learn more about our special music shows and more. Thanks for watching.